We often hear in non-duality that the human experience is essentially nothing other than the absolute. So you don't need to change. You don't need to become something other than what you already are. So awakening is not about change in that sense. So that's true at the level of insight. But at the level of our embodied experience, at the level of our biology and nervous system and emotional body, when the awakening does take place and this insight penetrates the conditioned mind, it doesn't just instantly clear out the system. So when we say that the human experience is the absolute, what is meant by that is that it is simply the natural state of all sentient beings, human or animal, mineral, whatever. But what's specific to human condition is that due to the development of the symbolic mind, the conceptual mind, that has taken such an extensive growth in the human organism, or it has somehow rooted itself in the human organism, and it has become almost like a phenomenon of its own, a collective phenomenon of its own. Because the thoughts you have in your mind, these thinking patterns, conditioned patterns, behavioral patterns, this whole sociocultural conditioning, it's a collective phenomenon. There's nothing personal about it. It's like a group mind that is thinking through our body-mind experience and kind of feeding on itself. This state of elaborated and complex and extensive conceptualization that is specific to human beings. So animals, they don't have this type of mind. They have some sort of symbolic mind, but it's more elemental, it's more simple. And what appears to be the reason why human beings serve as a kind of platform for this experience of conceptualization, for this phenomenon of elaborated conceptualization, like this group mind, collective mind, is that it has reached a point of forming self-consciousness, in a way that is very specific to human beings, like this form of self-consciousness and self-concept and self-view. And we could call it the I am Fetter, and then all the fabrication that follows, from that fundamental assumption that there is something of an actually existing I, me, in the experience, in the center of experience. So when awakening takes place, what happens is that some of this conditioning falls away. And it depends on a person, like in what way it happens and how much of the conditioning falls away. Like some awakenings are very thorough and very deep. We have these classical examples like Ramana Maharishi. So a lot of the conditioning apparently falls away with such a sudden complete awakening, but not all. And then we have examples of awakening journeys where the unfolding is more gradual, it's more extended over a period of time. But the result is the same. There is a distinct shift at the identity level, a dissolution of the identity structure, and a lot goes away with it, right? A lot goes away with much more than we could ever imagine. But not all. Like some of that cell structure is still rooted in our biology and nervous system. And that's why there is this process of clearing that follows that usually takes some years, like after derealization, after the dissolution of the self structure, like the fundamental container. And what those remnants of self are, those remnants of conditioning, they are exactly this highly developed web of a conceptual mind that I was just talking about, that has been living in our organism and kind of feeding on our life force. So the metaphor that Matrix is giving us, the movie Matrix, is very fitting. Just that it's not an evil force, it's not an intentional attempt to hijack anyone, because there is not actually anyone here. So this phenomena of conceptualization and form of self-consciousness and group mind that is specific to human beings, it is inherently empty. It's just a curious evolutionary event, but ultimately utterly insignificant. Like it creates this experience of suffering that is very specific to human beings, this experience of samsara, but from a grand scale. In a grand scale, it's really utterly insignificant, this curious evolutionary development of the symbolic mind to such a complex extent. But this is what is often not discussed in non-duality, this process of clearing that follows deep realization. But everyone who has undergone it knows what it's about, experientially, viscerally. It's not something you really ever need to talk about after it's done. Like if you become a teacher, maybe you share about it at times in a way that it's kind of pointing out the universal or archetypical patterns in this clearing out process. But when it has completed, and it does have a certain completion, it's like the whole thing is wiped out. It doesn't really feel that important at all, because the system is just clear. That's the natural state. It's just this transparency, this deep, like cellular well-being that is like radiating each moment and refreshing the experience. It's like non-conceptual bliss that is far more deeper than just the state of being fundamentally okay or fundamentally at peace, because it's a very like biological state, and it's really the most natural state. And there is very little need for thinking in this mode. So a lot of it falls away. There is this great silence. And at the same time, the use of concepts when it is needed becomes a lot more precise, becomes very functional, very direct, like uncalculated. So it's not an opposite of conceptualization. Like that can be one of the traps, like during this transition, this attachment to purely non-conceptual state. Like that's not the natural state. The natural state doesn't have an opposite. But it does die in our system, that conditioned mind, that group mind, that symbolic mind. It does undergo a kind of death. Like from its perspective, it's being destroyed. But as it is empty, it's not an actual entity. It is eventually seen. So perfect, this process of clearing, like so absolutely perfect, beyond comprehension. Like it's like an intense purification. Like it's kind of like burned away from our system. Like again, it's not a state of perfection. It's not like all conditioning is wiped out. But you do become very, very empty, like kind of viscerally at the level of torso, at the level of heart, at the level of gut. So with the initial no self inside, it's like a decapitation. So there's this total clarity, but then in the heart and in the gut, we might still experience the remnants of the self structure that are in a process of eviction. And when it's complete, when it's complete because it's a very visceral, very energetic, very direct felt sense. It's not really a cognitive thing at all at this phase. Like it just feels clear, feels empty. It's a very different kind of emptiness than plunging into infinite void. This emptiness of the system, of the organism in the natural state.